The S&P 500 was down 0.25% today, closing at 6373.45. We've now seen several attempts at this 6410 level to break out, and every single time we get up there, sellers and profit takers enter into the market. No breakout as of yet. Gamma exposure is still pointing higher. However, we see the largest gamma exposure concentration is at the 6,500 strike. So that is a notable shift over the last couple of weeks. We've seen the GEX shift from 6,400 to 6,500 as the market continues to consolidate in this range, mostly between 6,300 and 6,400. So pretty much all of the losses that we saw late last week with the sell-off down to the 6,250 range have been erased, and we're right back up to this potential breakout point. So one of the things that we've been talking about in our live stream is the role of vol sellers in the market, and I think this is evident here as we are coming right back up to this major resistance point. Vol sellers are a big component of this and a big component of keeping the market afloat at these all-time high levels. Speaking of volatility, our GEX weighted volatility gauge is now back down to 13.2. This is an extremely low reading. It basically is telling us that implied volatility for the S&P has only been lower 13.2% of the time over the last 52 weeks. So that combined with positive gamma exposure presents a really solid buy the dip environment. And although we did see a pretty significant dip about a week ago, that was indeed bought, and the combination of vol sellers and traders buying the dip continues to suggest that the 6,500 strike is a possibility of reaching within the next couple of weeks.
Thanks, Anthony. Let's take a look at IWM, and not to be too much of a broken record relative to what we've been saying the last few days, we're still holding key support with both the whole and the 9-period SMA, almost at the same level, that mid 218 to high 219 area. GEX has been pretty solidly negative at almost negative 1 billion for some time now. So IWM gives us some contrasting data points. Number one, I think the upside potential looks greater if the market embarks on some sort of a blow off or move higher from here. But we have a weak underlying picture with IWM, and I think this is also probably true of a lot of the individual names within the S&P that appear to be weaker and down right now as well. I still think if we could see IWM reach 210, that would be a good buy. I'm not sure if I'm in the camp of dip now and rally into year end, or blow off now and then dip into the end of the year. We've seen it flip-flop the last 2 years in a row as well. But we do have volume here at 210. It's one of the top 3 highest volume strikes of the day for IWM. We do have GEX at 230. One final point on the weekly chart for IWM. We've come close to breaching this important 9-period SMA support at 219. This is still within what we were seeing on the daily chart as well. In my view, bringing even further importance to the 218 to 220 range. And if we break below 219 and we close below 219, watch out below. My guess would be that 210 arrives fairly quickly.
Thanks, Sean. There's a handful of stocks that we use to identify risk on sentiment in the overall market. AMD is one of those stocks. Today it was down 0.28%, closing at 172.28, hanging just below the 180 recent high. We see gamma exposure between 180 and 200, showing a strong positive skew. And one of the things that also caught my attention today was nearly 100,000 contracts traded at this 200 strike. So bullish momentum appears to continue in AMD. With AMD hanging right up here with the recent highs, this appears to be somewhat of a consolidation. As long as we're hanging above the 160 to 165 zone in positive gamma exposure territory, we think it's just a matter of time before AMD does break out and attempts to make a new high up towards the 200 level. So we're looking at this as a potential swing play for our portfolios, which, by the way, you can track our trades in real time as we manage our options portfolio by heading over to geeksoffinance.com, link in the description below.
Thanks, Anthony. I've got the VIX pulled up. I have the weekly chart pulled up in particular, and you can see today we had pretty significant volume, relatively speaking, at 25 and even up to 35. What's catching my attention is that the VIX has been holding this weekly whole moving average at 1536. Appears to be a pretty important support area. You can go back and find weeks in a row where it spent time below that line, and those weeks tended to accompany periods of VIX weakness. So we're definitely watching that line to see how the VIX behaves around it. There's certainly no indication from GEX or from the options market that there's interest in the VIX below 15. Given that the VIX has been at pretty much a floor at 15 this entire year, you have to go back to December to find weeks where we spent much time below 15. This is definitely an important area to be cautious of, either shorting volatility or, cautious of your long positions in the event of a VIX spike. We have CPI tomorrow morning pre-market. VIX option expiration is on my birthday next Wednesday, so just be cautious heading into that day as well.
Next, let's take a look at Meta. Meta has been consolidating just above the 750 level after its recent earnings report, basically between 750 and 775 in this consolidation zone. One of the things we noticed, though, prior to earnings, actually when we were trading in the low 700s, we saw this gamma exposure growing at the 800 strike. That has remained through earnings. Even today, over 20,000 contracts traded at that 800 strike. So that does appear to have significant interest for market participants. We believe that once this consolidation period is completed, that we could see a breakout up to this 800 level. We've traded Meta a number of times in recent months. Most recently, we've been trading a wheel strategy around Meta, basically selling puts around important gamma exposure levels, collecting premium. If we get assigned the shares, then we sell calls against that underlying position, just collecting more premium. And so we have a number of different premium collection strategies. Meta has been a particularly useful vehicle for a premium collection strategy, and we think that's going to continue to be the case. The 50-day EMA is rising quickly. Currently, it's at 710.25, so we remain above that level. We ran right into this level prior to earnings, and that ended up holding as support, which I think was really important structurally for the stock overall. And if we just take a quick look at our 3D surface model, we can see there is quite a bit of gamma exposure at the August 15th expiration, but that pales into comparison to the 780 strike for this Friday. So lower probability that we would hit 800 by this Friday. However, if we come out here into the September 19th expiration, we do see that that is the largest gamma exposure concentration in that expiration. So this is something that may take, another 4 or 5 weeks to play out, but it does look like market participants have an expectation that that 800 strike could get hit here relatively soon.
Thanks, Anthony. For our viewers out there, we covered Netflix on our daily live stream sometime last week, I believe it was. And you can see it had a really good week last week. I have the weekly chart pulled up, and we're starting to see some follow through here. And I'm really wanting to see what happens at this 1230 to 1240 area where these two moving averages are converging. This is the whole moving average and the 9-period SMA, which I've highlighted a number of times today.
And we just extended our limited time promotion a few more days, so you can get $300 off our yearly portfolio manager tier subscription. Use code summer 2025 at checkout. We've made a few additional spots available, so you guys definitely take advantage of that while you can. Members get full access to our gamma exposure dashboard, our option flow analytics tools, as well as our algorithmic trading strategies. And you can also track our trades in real time by joining our community Discord. There's a ton of great traders in there sharing their own trade setups, and you can also track our trades in real time, as I mentioned. Links in the description below to all of that. Definitely check that out when you get a chance. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.